If you actually sleep and you get the correct rest you need, you're able to get a lot more work done in far less time. So a lot of people, if you look at why they avoid sleeping or postpone sleeping, it's actually a result of them not having the correct systems built in their life. Perhaps this is the issue, or I am burnt out, but this is the reason I'm burnt out. This was the thing, because you might still be getting your sleep in or your hydration in, or you might be taking time to read books, etc., but your burnout is coming from a different realm. That's how you break it down and understand it.
Systems. Everyone is talking about systems, but you always talk about thinking in systems. So what is systems thinking and why is it important? So why is sleep so important for high performance?
Perfect. So if you look at it, sleep is super, super important. And this is something that entrepreneurs have to understand. Sleep is crucial. And although there's so much things there about just hustling, staying up late at night to get the work done, it actually leads to a lot of inefficiency if you think about it, right? If you actually sleep and you get the correct rest you need, you're able to get a lot more work done in far less time. Right? So a lot of people, if you look at why they avoid sleeping or postpone sleeping, it's actually a result of them not having the correct systems built in their life. All right? Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, we sleep for about 8 hours on average, right? 8 minus 24, meaning you have 16 hours during the day. Now, I'm not saying there isn't other things that happen throughout the day or other things that need to be done, but if 16 hours isn't enough for you to get things done throughout the day, that you have to actually now start to tap into your 6 to 8 hours of sleep, then there's a problem with other aspects of your life. It shouldn't be a problem to get 8 hours of sleep. And if there is a problem where you can't afford to get out 8 hours of sleep, there's clearly a design flaw with the way you're living. Clearly something needs to be improved.
Okay.
And one thing you have to understand is sleep influences a lot of other aspects, okay? It influences your ability to make good decisions, okay? It influences your focus, right? Your ability to pay attention. So all of those things are naturally affected, right? So when you take it into account, like, okay, you're going to work for an extra couple of hours, etc., but how much you're going to lose on the back end, you realize that sleeping little hours is actually a diminishing return, right? Working extra hours to a point where it affects your sleep is 100% diminishing return, because the more it's going to affect you in so many other ways where it's not even worth it anymore.
Perfect. When it comes to energy and focus, what supplements do you recommend?
So supplements are good, but supplements are enhancers. And this is something I always, make it clear to my clients. I'm not against the concept of supplements, but a lot of people use supplements as replacements for things. Now, a supplement isn't a replacement for something. It's an enhancer. It betters, it improves something. Does that make sense? So sleep is still important. It's still important for you to get your right, body in the right nutrients into your body, etc. But yes, supplements can be quite beneficial, right? So you have things like omega-3, which help you in terms of your brain focus, how your brain optimizes, the freshness essentially of your brain, if you will. You have things like magnesium, which can help you relax a lot when it's time to go bed. Melatonin, using it at certain periods. For example, if you go through like a change, because I travel a lot as well, the first couple of days I will use melatonin to, deal with things like jet lag, balance out my sleep schedule, etc. And there's loads of things. There's, different supplements for different things, and of course I'm not a doctor, but the point is, supplements help things, they enhance things, but they can't be used as replacements. And that's something that has to be understood. It's an enhancer, not a replacer, if you will.
Perfect. Fawaz, as an entrepreneur, I try to design my life, but I'm constantly dealt with distractions. How do I deal with that?
Perfect. So if you look at it, distractions is actually a symptoms of unclear priorities, right? So, or environments that aren't designed for focus. If you actually take a step to design your life and design your society in a way that prevents you from being distracted, then you won't have the issue of always, being distractions. I think people who have loads of distractions around them, okay, it's always going to end up in them being distracted. If you leave it to things like willpower, etc., you're going to find problems. Does that make sense? So when we look at it, right, what is performance? Performance, as you will, is potential minus interference. So distractions are a symptom of unclear priorities and poor design. That's all it is. If you're dealing with a lot of distractions in your life, it's really because you haven't designed your life to prevent distractions from coming in. And look, life is always going to come with distractions, so you can't always leave it to willpower to, tell your mind not to get distracted. If you're talking and I start waving my hand in front of you, it's going to be very difficult for you to focus. So if you look at it, if you just take a step to actually audit your life and see where the different distractions are coming in, where your focus, gets leaked from, if you actually seek to understand that, you can actually counter, you can actually work against it, right? So if you look at it, what is performance? Performance, or, if you will, success is when you take potential minus interference. So you actually need to minus as much interferences from possible if you want to be able to actually attain your potential, right? To be able to get to the level you want to get to, you need to remove as much interference as possible. How do you remove interference? It's very simple. Again, audit your life. Look at the different things. This is why entrepreneurs need to be far more self-aware. If you're more aware and you engage in more feedback loops, you're able to see where the distractions primarily come from, and you're able to make certain decisions or add certain preventative methods to prevent those things from coming up again. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Perfect. How can I avoid burnout while scaling my business?
Perfect. So burnout is something a lot of entrepreneurs deal with. And you have to understand that burnout doesn't make you a failure. It's a signal. It's a signal for that something in this way we're doing things is broken. Something needs help. Something isn't being paid attention to. And that's what you have to start to understand burnout as. It means there's sort of a design flaw. One aspect of our lives is being overworked, right? Without sufficient rest and recovery. Now, sometimes, for example, right, if you have an injury, like let's say muscle pain, it means you've just overworked the muscle to a degree now where it's not functioning properly anymore. You actually can't put any weight on it, for example, or, you can't use it. You can't use it. Why? Because there was too much strain and little rest and recovery to fix said strain. It's the same thing with your life. So there's burnout in different aspects, right? So there's the mental aspect, which again means there's too much strain on your mental health, like on not your mental health, but on your mental state. Things like, this happening or these people coming into your life, and there's so much happening to a point that now you're strained, which is why sometimes you can be burnt out, but it's not a physical thing. Physically, you feel fine. All right. Or sometimes, you've got the required sleep, but again, you still don't feel like you can pay attention. Maybe it's a social thing. Sometimes you're with people and you're just burnt out. You feel like you can't give your team anything, or you can't give, your clients, you feel burnt out. Again, it means you didn't take the proper rest and recovery required. So now that muscle or that ability is strained that much that it's unable to be used. You feel like you can no longer use it. So easily, if you want to prevent burnout, you need to understand the different causes of burnout. And if you comment burnout, you'll find that we have the 7 kinds of burnout and the way to prevent it, and also a way to test if you're burnt out or if you're just dealing with temporary stress. Now, when you go through this, you'll be able to understand that, okay, I'm not burnt out. Perhaps this is the issue, or I am burnt out, but this is the reason I'm burnt out. This was the thing, because you might still be getting your sleep in or your hydration in, or you might be, taking time to read books, etc. But your burnout is coming from a different realm. That's how you break it down and understand it, inshallah.
Fawaz, what is your advice for improving focus as an entrepreneur?
So focus is, again, an emergence property. Now, what does an emergence property mean? Right? Let me break it down to you. You can't say, Fawaz, how do I increase hydration? Like you drink water, and from drinking water, hydration emerges. Does that make sense? It's an emergence property. It comes from something. There's no way to increase focus, right off the bat. It's an emergence property, meaning it comes from the way you manage your energy and your clarity. So focus is primarily in regards to clarity and energy management. If you can manage clarity and manage energy, then you will find it very, very easy to focus. Okay. Now, again, this is why we actually create the Live by Design framework, because it's about creating those systems that you get all of these emergence properties. Like, for example, income is an emergence property. You don't make money. Like, money can't be made, right? Money is made, yeah, but not by us. If we try and make money, we're going to go to prison. Okay. So money is, transacted. How do we get people to give us our money? Again, it's an emergence property of having, let's say, a good product, then marketing, etc. A whole system is what gives birth to that revenue. Does that make sense? So it's a system of things. So taking care of things like your clarity, your focus, your management, etc. Eliminating things like distractions, not multitasking, which is focusing on one task, and having clarity around the tasks that you're doing as well. That allows you to achieve focus, and also working in terms of your biology. Now, one thing that is understanding, and it's scientifically proven as well, that we have what we refer to as ultradian and circadian rhythm. Now, the circadian rhythm is to do with sleep. We know okay, we sleep in these periods of times and, it allows us to gain more energy. But most of what I want to focus on right here is the ultradian rhythm, which means every 90 minutes, our brains start to come out of focus just naturally, right? So what you need to do is do it in 90, 20/30-minute bursts, okay? So work hard and focus on one clear objective for 90 minutes. Take a 20, 30-minute break, okay? Now that break should not be overstimulating because again, now you're messing up your clarity, right? And your energy management. Because if you're scrolling during your break, you're going to be butchered, right? Your brain is going to be overwhelmed, right? There's too much overstimulated. So what you want to do is have like a calm, chill break. Maybe watch a bit of TV. I'm joking. Not watch TV. Maybe, for example, read a book or put your head outside, go look outside the window, just drink a cup of coffee, whatever it is. But do something that is relaxing, and then you want to get back again into work. And if you look at it, to actually get into deep focus, it takes about 20 to 40 minutes, right? So every time there's a distraction or something that pings, you're actually coming out of focus, and it takes the 20 to 40 minutes to build that level of focus again, which is why it's so important that when you're actually working on something, remove and eliminate all sources of distraction so you can just focus primarily on that thing.
Okay, Fawaz, I'm not only an entrepreneur, I'm also a Muslim. I also have a family. How do I make sure that I'm balancing and not kind of giving my full focus into business, full focus into Deen, full focus into family, everything?
Firstly, I'm glad you've been able to establish that you're not just an entrepreneur. I wish more Muslim entrepreneurs would establish that what they are is actually slaves of Allah, fathers, and they need to serve their family. That's what it means to be a father. You serve your children. That's what it means to be a husband, and you serve your wife, okay? Now, of course, feminists don't take that. We know what a man man's on. But you understand my point, right? You need to protect and preserve and prioritize these things, right, as well. So balancing Deen, family, and business requires prioritization and integration. Okay, now what do I mean by that? First, you need to identify what are some non-negotiables. Okay, in terms of my family, what certain things I want to make sure I'm doing every week. In terms of business, what are some non-negotiables, things I need to take care of. In terms of Deen, what are my priorities, things that I need, again, to take care of. This approach actually ensures that you're not making time you're not just making time for your family and friends, right? But you're designing your business to complement those things, right? So we need to restructure and say, what's my North Star here? What are the important things? And we start to design, okay, what are certain things I need to take care of every week in regards to my family, etc. And how can I design it where one doesn't affect the other? And if you actually sit down, and like we said, we do this for you, and we assess the different components of your life. We do this with you. We assess the different components of your life. We can actually start to understand and find integration between making sure your physical health is there, your family is there, your health, you're still developing as a human being, you're still growing, you're not remaining stagnant, etc. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Fawaz, what is the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make when trying to scale?
Perfect. I think the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make when scaling is they think scaling means doing more, right? If I want to scale, I need to work longer hours. If I want to scale, I need to work harder. In a way, it's true. In another way, it's completely false. What do I mean by that? I'm going to break it down to you. Okay. Scaling doesn't necessarily mean doing more. It means finding areas of leverage and exerting more effort in those things. So scaling isn't about hard work, right? Scaling is 100% not about doing more. It's about doing more and working hard in the areas of leverage, right? So what is leverage? Leverage is where we can put as little input in and get as much output as possible. So in business, and as a human being, we need to find our leverage points, right? Things that require us to put as minimal effort in as possible and we get as much leverage from it as possible. If I told you, for example, I have a machine that, if you put 10 in, it gives you 100. Versus I have a machine that you put 1 in, it gets 1,000. Only an idiot is going to say, no, because I'm putting in 10 units and it's much more harder work, I'm going to go for the one that puts 10 in and getting 100. That's not how you scale. You go for the machine that you only need to put 1 in and then you get 1,000. Then even if you acquire, and even if you decide to move over those 10 units of energy from the previous system into this one, instead of 100, which is 1 to 100, which is what you were getting previously, right? Or 1 to 10, now you're getting like 1 is to what? 1,000. It's way more leverage, right? So if you put those 10 units in right here, now you're getting 10,000, right? Whereas you're only getting 100 there, now you're getting 10,000. So the point is, as entrepreneurs, it's crucial for us to find and for us to search where is our leverage coming from our business. I actually did this with my clients, just to give you guys a practical example of how this works, right? So when we looked within his company, we seen, okay, the majority of his income was being made from this stream. So about like 40% of his income, because he had like 4 different areas in where he was, getting his company's revenue from, right? And 40% of the income was being generated from this single thing, right? Now that was bigger than the rest of them. If the majority of your income is being generated from this stream, and here's the thing, he was putting the least effort in that stream.
Wow.
The least effort, and it was still generating him what? 40% of his business. So leverage was getting him to understand what? How do we acquire? Why don't we put more of our time in this? More of our effort in this, right? And his company, walillah alhamd, scaled. He doubled in revenue, right? Over a period of what? About 30, 40 days. He doubled in revenue just from what? Seeing, look, I have leverage here. Why don't I put more manpower, more time, more energy into this thing? Find your leverage points as entrepreneurs. It's important in your life and in your business.
What is the difference between how a 7-figure entrepreneur generally thinks and how they're supposed to think as a CEO?
I actually like this question a lot, right? A 7-figure entrepreneur he moves from execution to strategy. He's much more focused on strategy than execution. Right? Because if the strategy is good and it's great, we need to spend a lot more time in execution. One of the things that's preached today a lot in the space is what? Don't spend too much time in the planning, just go ahead and do things, blah, 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 blah. That works to a certain degree, but in other ways, it's seriously problematic, right? Now, what do I mean by that? If you actually spend more time planning, I'm not saying acquire all your time to planning, etc. But you spend more time planning and you think strategically and you just get it off the ground and you're engaging in feedback loops as quick as possible. You actually much better your chances of success than just execute, right? You have to design, right? You have to think in systems. How do I create processes? How do I delegate effectively? How do I prioritize what actually drives the needle forward? And when you think in this way, you understand that it's about transitioning from being busy to being impactful. It's not about being busy anymore. It's about if I decide to work for an hour, that hour is massive. It's serious output. There's a lot of leverage on that 1 hour, not being busy. One thing I really want to change in the entrepreneurial space is like the sort of badge of honor you get for being a busy entrepreneur. I don't think that's a good thing. Right? That badge of honor, because you're so busy, you must be a fantastic entrepreneur. If busy is what makes a fantastic entrepreneur, I guess 9-to-5ers are the best.
It's funny because a lot of entrepreneurs actually come into this space saying that I want to have freedom over my own time, which majority of the time they don't because they've put these pressures upon themselves.
Precisely. Entrepreneurship is really, really misunderstood. Building and scaling businesses is really misunderstood. And it's just funny because the greats say it, but we are so in love still with that hustle culture because it's what got us to where we are, and it's who we now identify ourselves as. Or because you have an identity that helped you get to where you are, doesn't mean that same identity is going to help you scale. Sometimes you need to let go of the thing that got you sometimes you need to let go of the thing that got you to where you are in order to get to the next stage, in order to get to where you need to be, to where you want to be. You actually have to let go of the identity that got you where you are currently. And that's a shift that majority of entrepreneurs are unable to make. But it's a crucial one. And everything changes once they do.
Perfect. I have a question, but I don't know if you want to answer it. In one of the podcast, in many videos, Ustad Imran has actually mentioned that he has ADHD, but we know that it has been used to serve him. How would other entrepreneurs use ADHD to their advantage?
ADHD is a superpower. I'm telling you, I've done research on my clients with ADHD, right? Extensive research, and I've read studies upon it again and again and again. It all changes when you stop identifying as a person with ADHD in a negative sense and you take it through the positive light. If you look at ADHD, they have like these high swings, right? So when they're focused, super high focused. But when they have their drops, it's super low, right? So if they can learn to adjust their drops, but maintain those highs, it's gonna be fantastic. And I've seen it. One of my clients, he's actually major ADHD guy, right? Like I'm talking like the guy has major ADHD. Like if you spend 10, 15 minutes if you spend 2 minutes with the guy, it'll become clear to you he has ADHD. But his brain works on levels like I've never seen anyone's brain run before. And it's actually when I had that conversation with him, I was like, bro, you know, like you have something sick. Like you have something amazing, fantastic. Like this thing you have is like sick. And, you know, I explained to him what he has without using the term ADHD, all right, in the beginning. And he was like, whoa, you're actually right. And what he's been able to go and do since we've had that conversation and looked at as to how we can leverage this thing that perhaps people view as negative versus positive, the results are fantastic, man. The results are fantastic. They just need to design their lives in accordance to what they have, which can be done.
Okay, Fawaz, to be honest with you, I've just been hustling for a bunch of years. I don't really have a routine for my mornings. How can I optimize my mornings for success?
A great morning starts with intentionality. It's the big thing. The best thing you can do in the morning is actually set a full intention. Now, this should be primarily done the day before, at the start of the week, etc. But it's about going back and like rethinking over the intention tomorrow. Ideally, how do I want tomorrow to go? If you actually sit down and think and design the way you want tomorrow to go, there is at least 60-70% greater likelihood of the day going how you expected it to go had you not actually planned it out and had the intention, right? Had you just had a rough idea in your mind of I want to be productive. If you're actually more intentional, it's 60-70% more likelihood of your day being successful, which is big. So intentionality is super key, right? And that's why the first one of the things we do as well, because we understand the power of the morning, right? I also believe in the power of the night before. But anyway, one of the things I'm a fond believer of is the power of the morning. If you can kill the morning, you will kill the day, right? So if you have a successful morning, you're going to have a successful day. So one of the things we actually work on is designing our clients, especially their morning. Because if we can set them up, like I mentioned, if they have a good morning, they're set up pretty much for the rest of the day, right? So you design a morning routine that aligns with your goals, right? And that includes reflection, planning, high energy habits like exercise or journaling. Your morning sets the tone for the rest of your day. So you have to design it wisely. Your morning has to be designed wisely.
What is the role of self-awareness in peak performance?
Self-awareness is the foundation. The first thing we teach our clients, and by the way, I actually posted a poll on my story. I actually have the results, right? One second. I actually want to read out the poll results to you guys, okay? So I posted a poll on my story, and I was asking all 7 and 8-figure entrepreneurs, all 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs. I asked them, do you think you have a problem when it comes to self-awareness? All right? Do you believe you have a self-awareness issue? This is a question I asked. And you can see here, 70% of entrepreneurs said what? They do have a self-awareness issue. This self-awareness issue, it's such a great issue. Is that like, to have a self-awareness issue is a big, big, big thing. Because so many more issues come, it has so much more negative emergence properties just from having a self-awareness issue. Because now you don't realize certain things, and a lot of the worst one is when someone believes they're self-aware, but they're not even self-aware. At least it's good that we realize sometimes we have a self-awareness problem. So this is why the whole framework and everything we do, the first thing we actually teach our clients and walk them through is self-awareness. If you can start to notice patterns and notice things, you can fix them a lot quicker than people who can't spot and notice these things, right? If you're able to identify blind spots, your strengths, your weaknesses, your energy patterns, the energy fluctuations throughout the day, the days where you're more energetic, the days where you're more switched on, more focused than others, then you are able to design your habits, your systems, and your life in a way that works with your what? Your natural tendencies. You're working with your biology against your biology. And anyone who works with their biology will always win. Okay? When you understand yourself, performance becomes effortless.
Fawaz, how do I stop procrastinating?
Okay, perfect. Procrastination, again, it's not laziness. A lot of people think because I procrastinate, I'm lazy. Now, that can be the case. But if you've built a 6, 7, 8 figure business, you're obviously not lazy, right? It's just a lack of, again, a design. Because, yeah, literally, if I'm to even break it down in the easiest format, procrastination just shows a sign of unclear priorities. There's too much ambiguity. And whenever there's ambiguity, you will always procrastinate. If you actually clearly define what you're supposed to do, specifically how you're meant to do it, then you won't procrastinate half as much. Trust me, procrastination almost becomes super eliminated when you know what you're meant to do and how to do it. So this is exactly why we break tasks into manageable, clear steps to help you build the momentum. And it also allows you to have an accountability system that keeps you consistent and on track.
Perfect. Systems. Everyone is talking about systems, but you always talk about thinking in systems. So what is systems thinking and why is it important?
Perfect. Systems thinking is the only way to become successful long term. All right. Why do I say this? Because systems thinking is the way billionaires think, and it's the way the world actually works. The world, life, everything works holistically. In systems, there's integratedness, there's interconnectedness, meaning everything I do affects everything else I do. Does that make sense? Whatever I eat affects how I'm going to sleep, all right? How I'm going to, perform the next day. So all of these are variables. When you start to see that I need to focus on every aspect of my life rather than just focusing on this one thing or that next thing, and I need to see where all of these things integrate and interconnect, you start to understand that, whoa, it's just like in business, right? Your ads aren't separate to your funnel. They have to be integrated. There's interconnectedness. If there's a different message in both of them, you're going to have a massive leak in your funnel, right? So imagine I just focus on my ads without thinking about how my ads affect my funnel. Then I'm not going to have a very successful campaign. Imagine my program isn't integrated with my ads, right? So we understand this concept in business. Now, it can be further breaking down, even in business, because people struggle with it. But we need to understand it in our personal lives as well. It's the same thing. Understand that there's an interconnectedness. Now, people know this, but the problem is when they go to solve, they still solve in a way that is what? Reductionist. They just solve one aspect without thinking how it affects the others. So this is why it's so important to what? To think systematically. It allows you to see the bigger picture, see how all areas of your life interact with each other, how to identify inefficiencies, optimize your processes, etc. Does that make sense? To design a workflow that actually integrates with your personal and professional goals.
Okay. Why is recovery essential for high performance?
Recovery is the fuel of high performance. Recovery is the fuel of high performance. I don't understand when entrepreneurs say like, I don't need recovery, or, forget rest, or you just rest, when it's actually got into a dangerous stage. Like, does it take you being in the hospital? Like, subhanAllah, I see so many times, like, entrepreneurs find themselves in the hospitals. And even I myself was at this one stage where I had like, chest, heart problems at one stage in my own personal life because of loads of stress and loads of things going on in my life and my business. And I wasn't resting. And it's only when I'm in the hospital that I'm like, whoa, life is super important. And, I can't buy good health and I can't, improve my health with my money, etc. Like, health matters. That's something that you really need to understand. You don't get a second heart. You don't get a second chest. You don't get a second body. You only have one. And it's important that you take care and your health takes precedence. Because what is the point of scaling? Whatever answer you give me as to why you're trying to scale your company, if your health is removed, it doesn't matter anymore. And that is exactly why it's important to recover. And anyway, even if you don't care about your body, look, if I can't convince you in that element, let me make it clear. Rest and recovery is going to allow you to scale your company much, much more quicker. You're far more efficient. You have less mood swings. No one talks about it. Entrepreneurs have the worst mood swings I've ever seen in my life. And again, I was a victim of this. Serious mood swings. One day you're happy, one day you're delighted, the next day you're sad. One day you're highly motivated, you feel amazing, you can't wait to get to work. The other day you're completely drained. That's not part of the game. There's a design flaw.
Okay, Fawaz, what is the link between clarity and execution?
Clarity is the foundation of execution. Okay? For you to be able to execute effectively, you need clarity. You see, when you have everything weighed out in front of you and it's clear, it's so much more easier to execute, isn't it? A lot of the times when entrepreneurs delay execution, it's because of a lack of clarity around what they're executing on or how they're supposed to execute, which is why clarity is so important. Okay. Now, how do you gain more clarity? Rest and recovery is a big, big way. Okay. And again, reviewing and understanding everything, which is why I say entrepreneurs need to track and engage in feedback loops. The more you engage in feedback loops, the better understanding you have of things and how they work. And the more informed you are when it comes to making you, the more informed decisions, the better informed decisions you make, right? So what you need to do, okay, is you need to make sure you have a clear vision. And your vision is aligned with your goals and there's actionable steps. Remove any ambiguity. Wherever there's ambiguity, remove it, right? Ignorance leads to so many problems. When you don't know something, you can't take it into account, which is why try to remove areas of ambiguity around anything that can be slowing you down, right? When you know exactly what to do and how to do it and why you're doing it, execution becomes second nature. You don't hesitate. Just boom. I know I'm optimizing for. I know why I'm optimizing for this. And I know how to get to this. Execution becomes easy.
Fawaz, you're always talking about designing your life, but doesn't that bring in a lot of rigidness?
See, a daily routine isn't about rigid schedules, right? It's about creating a system that aligns with your energy and priorities. Like this is learning to work in a way in a way that you work most efficiently. The only reason a lot of the times entrepreneurs, I see that they find it very, very difficult to like stay in one way or because it doesn't work for them. When you find the routine and the strategy and the way of living or the way of design that works for you, you don't want to go anywhere else. You don't want to do anything else because it's so perfectly aligned with you, right? It's like after you go custom thobes, you don't go back. This is my perfect example, right? You never get sick of a custom thobe because it's designed for you. And the moment you try random thobes, they don't feel good. That's why we don't just sell frameworks to our clients. I'm like, yeah, this is what you do. We look at the aspects of their life and adjust it accordingly.
So you're saying there's not like an exact daily routine, but it depends on the person, how his life is structured.
100%. We don't believe in exact routines or exact frameworks. Now, there's ideas that we all have to judge and live by. Like there's, certain routines we all need to judge and live by, right? But they change person to person, circumstance to circumstance, situation to situation, which is why you need to design things for you. A thobe. Do all thobes have like two arms, right? And a longer part in the middle and the chest area, etc. Yeah, but how do we design it for you? It's your arm length, your chest length, your waist, your length, etc. Does that make sense?
For us, so you're always talking about leverage, but what exactly is leverage and how can I transform it in my life?
Leverage means achieving more with less effort. It's the common sense way to achieve anything quickly, which is leverage, right? You have to identify leverage points in your life and your business. And this is what we work with our clients to do. Actually understand, where do your leverage points lie? Okay? And how can we take them and grab them and extract as much leverage from them as possible, right? Leverage points in your business and life, things like maybe delegation. It could be like automation. That's leverage, right? You build a software once and it takes care of things for, let's say, forever until maybe scaling. That's when we need to redesign, etc. Or compounding habits, for example. These are things of leverage. They take a lot less effort to do. Or they require some effort in the beginning and then they don't require a lot of effort. And design is one of those things that's just super high leverage. Yes, does it take some time working with us? We've made it as minimal as possible to get to your destination. But does it take some time? Yes. But it's one of those things you only need to design once. Then when you 3x, okay, and things are starting to 3x in your life, then it's again easier. We just redesign again. But it's a lot more easier than having to switch things up day to day, etc., and living against your design. Basically, a lot is just systems break and through ease every time it triples or grows by a power of 10. Meaning every time 10, 20, 30. So for example, what works for like 3 people won't work for 10, and what works for 10 people won't work for 30. So it's like 3, 10. Every time it triples or 10x's, it's broken. So it's like 3, 10, 100, 9.
Fawaz, you're always talking about systemizing and designing your life, but don't systems break?
Of course, systems break. Okay, it's just natural. Every system breaks, and that's just naturally how it is, right? So there is a law by actually a Chinese CEO. He mentions that it's the 3 to 10 rule, right? So every time something triples or it hits a 10 multiple, it no longer works. For example, what works for 3 people isn't gonna work for 10. Okay, the system that works for 3 people isn't gonna work for 10. So once it gets to 10, you're gonna have to change it. Or what works for 30 people isn't gonna work for 100 people. The point is, systems over time, as you grow, systems need to change. They need to become adjusted. A system for a person who is single is much different from a person who has 3 kids versus 10 kids, etc. So naturally, systems change when there's change. Now, that's not a problem. So systems can break. But the key is having systems designed to adapt, right? So you design your systems in a way where you adapt to change. Does that make sense? And that's a system within itself, right? And understanding how to actually leverage in a situation where, okay, XYZ has happened or XYZ has changed. How can we leverage that? How can we actually use this change to maybe fix another aspect of our system or grow another aspect of our system? Systems do break. That's absolutely fine. It just needs to be redesigned. But if a system is built well, for it to break, a lot of things have to grow, which is good anyway. Because now we need to, again, adjust the systems for this new level of growth.
Fawaz, I get it. Designing your life, systemizing your life, it seems amazing, but my life is just too hectic and too crazy to actually live by design.
If your life is crazy, that's exactly why you need to design it. That is exactly the reason why it needs to be designed and adjusted. If you live a crazy life where it's hectic, where you can't control things, that's a problem. Right? Because when you remove every aspect of control, you're leaving randomness, things to sort of randomness, right? You're leaving it yourself to be reactional to whatever happens, then you react off it rather than being intentional. And we all understand as entrepreneurs, the only way to actually scale is to scale with intent, right? So quite simply, what you need to first straight away go to understand is what? Okay, that's not a good idea. Okay. If my life is crazy, where is the craziness coming from? All right. How do I make crazy not so crazy? All right. You see, that's what allows you to bring clarity and focus. And it helps you actually focus on what matters and simplifying your day. If you always allow hectic events to happen in your life, so how are you ever meant to scale? How are you ever meant to grow? How are you ever meant to focus on a project? This is a big issue I genuinely had, right? I never wanted to design my life because I kind of enjoyed the randomness of it. But that came with so much more harm than it did gain. And it resulted in a lot of stagnancy. Right? So what do you prefer? Do you prefer chaos, which is very difficult to predict and control? Or do you prefer a more controlled environment? Now I will always opt for a more controlled environment. Even now, to be honest with you, I don't like leaving my house a lot. Or just environments where I don't have control over. Uncontrolled environments, like being outside, etc. In certain areas I'm not familiar with. Uncontrolled environments. Why? Because it caters for things to happen that are out of my control. For example, if I'm on the road, right? And this is why I try to keep things as local as possible. If I'm driving somewhere and there'll be like a car crash, right? I can't control that. That's affected my day. But if I'm at home, or if I'm in my office or in my environment where I control a lot of the factors and I've designed it in a way that allows me to succeed, there's little chance for random chaotic things to happen.
So,
It's been designed. That's exactly why you need to design your life.
so if you want to design,
And I'm going to go sleep. So if you would like to actually take some time to learn how to design your life, how to scale by design, meaning revenue-wise, spiritually, scale professionally, personally, with your family, every aspect of your life, if you just want to see it go up and better, then DM us the word scale, and we will help you scale by design.